The movie starts with a man named Doug Woods. He is a wildlife photographer and also the host of a survival show called Woods Versus. In the show, he goes to remote forests and wild places to teach people how to survive. 2 seasons of his program have already been made. Some viewers liked it, but it didn't perform well enough for any major TV network to pick it up. Now, they are about to film the 3rd season. If this one is not sold either, Doug and his team may go bankrupt. So, Doug is under a lot of pressure and facing hard times. Doug often makes jokes during his survival show, but that might be part of the problem. Viewers seem to not appreciate his humor, and this could be the reason no major TV network has picked up the show yet. Now, with his future hanging by a thread, Doug and his team have decided to take a big risk. They chose one of the toughest places on Earth, the remote forests of northern Canada, for the next filming, hoping it will finally make an impact. One night, we see Doug quietly leaving his house. He doesn't want to wake his wife and young daughter, but they still hear him and come to say goodbye. His daughter recorded an emotional video message for him, something he can watch when he feels lonely or scared in nature. It's a way of giving him strength during the toughest times. Not long after, Doug's team arrives in a trailer. The team includes his younger brother Terry, the show's producer Bill, and a woman named Angie. Their destination is a few hours away, and during the journey, Doug talks with his team. They are clearly discouraged and worried about the show's future. They try to convince Doug that he needs to raise the stakes this time, do something bold or unexpected to win over the audience. Otherwise, everyone risks losing everything and having to leave the show for good. Doug is troubled by these thoughts as well. Although he doesn't say much, he still reassures everyone that he will do his best. To take his mind off things, he plays a game of chess with Terry during the trip, a game he has always loved and finds comfort in. Eventually, they arrive in a small town where they plan to meet their local guide, someone familiar with the area since the forest they are going to is known to be dangerous. At a nearby restaurant, they are introduced to Duncan, a man who lives in the region and will guide them to the drop-off point. While they eat, Terry pulls Doug aside to talk and suggests that he avoids jokes during this season of the show, saying that it hurts the viewership. The comment stings, leaving Doug feeling down, as if his personality is no longer enough for the show. After the meal, they leave again. The plan is to take Doug deep into the forest by boat. He will be completely alone out there for 5 days, after which the team will return to pick him up. For emergencies, Doug is given a satellite phone so he can call for help if anything goes wrong. Before moving away, everyone gives Doug advice on what kind of content he should create, urging him to do more unusual and eye-catching things that might finally make the show a success. They are under pressure and make it clear that if this season fails, they could all lose everything. Although Doug is hurt by their frankness, he doesn't show it. He keeps his feelings to himself, not wanting to appear weak before the challenge has even begun. As they continue the journey, it suddenly starts to rain. Duncan calmly tells Doug that this is just a taste of what he will face out there. Nature is unpredictable and relentless. Finally, they reach the edge of the forest, where Duncan leaves Doug. With some final words, the group leaves him alone. Now, the real challenge is about to begin. Doug prepares his camera, officially starting the next season of Woods Versus. He opens his backpack to check the items he will depend on for the next 5 days. Inside are a hat, a camera flash, an energy drink, an apple, a harmonica, and some chewing gum. Just these basic items to survive in the wilderness. His first priority is to find a place to sleep. He climbs a short distance to a higher and safer spot and decides that there is where he will build his shelter. With only a few hours of daylight left, he begins to work quickly. He collects wood from a fallen tree, choosing pieces with soft branches for easy handling. But while he works, a splinter gets deeply lodged under his nail, causing a sharp pain. Gritting his teeth, he manages to pull it out. But it was a harsh reminder that even the smallest things could be a serious challenge out there. After some effort, he finally finishes building the shelter. With night approaching quickly, he knows that the next step is equally important: to start a fire to keep wild animals away. He decides to use the energy drink can by scraping its metal surface. He tries to create enough friction to generate a spark. After half an hour of struggling, he changes tactics. Using the reflective side of the can, he aims it at the sun, concentrating the sunlight on a handful of dry wood. After some tense moments, The wood finally catches fire. His first real success in the wilderness. Night falls quickly, and Doug decides to communicate with his team using the satellite phone. On the other end, his team is chatting casually and having fun. Hearing their laughter while he struggles alone in the wilderness leaves Doug a bit disheartened, but he remembers that this is part of his job. That night, Doug had to go to bed with an empty stomach. He didn't have a chance to hunt, and there was nothing to eat. Exhausted from the day and warmed by the fire, he eventually fell asleep. But in the middle of the night, he was awakened by a loud, thunderous explosion. The sound was so powerful it left him shaken, although he couldn't figure out what had happened. He assumed it could have been an earthquake and tried to calm himself before going back to sleep. When morning came, something felt different. When Doug got up and looked around, he was shocked to see smoke and fire in parts of the forest. Then something massive fell from the sky into the nearby river, violently shaking the ground. Doug ran to the scene and saw something disturbing. All the fish in the water were dead. Whatever had fallen seemed to be toxic or dangerous. Doug suspected it could have been a meteor. Still, from a survival standpoint, the dead fish meant food. Doug was hungry and initially felt relieved. He now had something to eat. But just as he was about to act, he spotted a wolf in the distance. The animal approached the river, sniffed the air, and then turned and walked away without touching a single fish. That moment made Doug hesitate. The wolf clearly sensed something he couldn't. If the wolf didn't trust the fish, maybe Doug shouldn't trust them either. Worried, Doug decided to contact his team to report what he had seen. But when he went to grab the satellite phone, he was without signal, without connection. That's when he began to piece things together. Whatever had fallen from the sky must have also disrupted communications, possibly a meteor impact. Now, without a working phone and nothing safe to eat, Doug had only one option: to hunt. Still hungry from the previous night, he urgently needed food. He set up 3 traps hoping to catch a rabbit or some other small animal. And while he waited, he continued filming his surroundings, documenting everything, including this strange and unsettling turn of events. Before sunset, Doug went to check the traps he had set earlier. And to his relief, 2 of them had managed to capture rabbits. When he bent down to collect his catch, one of the cameras he had positioned nearby suddenly fell over by itself. Just then, Doug heard a strange and unfamiliar sound echoing through the forest. Assuming it could be the wolf again, he quickly grabbed the camera and made his way back to camp, staying alert. To avoid attracting predators, Doug decided to clean the rabbits a short distance from his shelter. While doing this, he kept the camera filming, documenting the process for his audience. Once finished, he returned to camp and once again tried to call his team using the satellite phone, but it was still without signal. He grabbed his personal phone, a gift from his daughter, but as expected, there was no signal. Feeling lonely and discouraged, Doug watched a video his wife had recorded for him. Her words brought comfort and gave him the strength to continue. But just as he began to feel better, he heard the same sinister sounds coming from the trees, as if someone or something was watching him from the shadows. Fearing it could be a pack of wolves, Doug hurriedly ate his food. As he couldn't take both rabbits with him, he decided to hide one. In front of the camera, he shared a survival tip, tying the remaining rabbit upside down by its leg and hanging it from a tree branch to keep it out of reach of animals. With night falling, Doug returned to his shelter and spent time playing chess alone using his small board, but the strange sounds returned. Doug looked around, scanning the darkness, but saw nothing. He tried to ignore it and focus on his game. Unbeknownst to him, something or someone silently approached and took the rabbit he had hung. Whatever it was, it moved with purpose and intelligence. It did not act like an animal. That's when the unease grew stronger. Soon after, it started to rain. In front of the camera, Doug tried to act as if his shelter was holding up well, but in reality, it was useless. Water poured through the structure, soaking him completely. The ground beneath became damp and muddy, making it hard to sleep or even stay warm. Then Doug heard an animal's scream coming from somewhere nearby. Cutting and haunting, it echoed through the trees and froze him in place. He quickly grabbed his night vision camera and scanned the forest. But no matter how much he looked, he could see nothing. Doug was now scared, and because of it, he couldn't sleep through the night. In the morning, his whole body ached, and the lack of rest was really starting to affect him. Deep down, he wanted to give up, but he continued hiding how important this show was to him. So despite the pain and fear, he forced himself to keep going. He grabbed his camera and went to check the rabbit he had saved for breakfast, but it was missing. Someone or something had taken it. Doug was terrified. He knew that no wild animal could have done this in such a clean and deliberate way. In a panic, he grabbed the satellite phone and tried to call his team again. But as before, there was no signal. Trying to remain strong, Doug reset the traps and waited. When he returned to check them later, he was shocked. His traps had been emptied again, but not by animals. Instead, he found a strange black substance beneath one of the traps, and it glimmered slightly. Doug was stunned and went back to take a closer look, but then noticed something even more disturbing. Your satellite phone was missing. Then he saw that someone had moved a chess piece on the board he was playing with. That was the last straw. Doug now knew for sure that he was not alone. Someone was out there watching him, messing with his life. He started to wonder if it might be a fan playing pranks. Another idea crossed his mind. He thinks it could be one of the crew members trying to make the show more exciting. This thought gave him some comfort. He decided to light a fire, turned the camera back on, and continued filming. After all, he still needed footage for the show. That night, he carefully considered his next move in the chess game, and then he finally managed to rest. The next morning, Doug packed his things and left the area. He wanted to move to a new location and set up camp somewhere else. A little further on, he found a large rock and used it as part of his new shelter. He lit another fire and prepared to look for food. This time, he tried to catch some fish, but the water was completely empty, so he began to look around for small animals to hunt. As he ventured deeper into the forest, he suddenly froze. In front of him was a shelter, one that looked exactly like his. It even had a fire made with the same can, just like he had shown in his videos. Someone was copying everything he did. At first, he thought it could still be a fan trying to mess with his life, but then he noticed something even more alarming. His missing satellite phone was there, disassembled, as if someone had been studying it. Doug was now truly terrified. Nearby, he discovered the dead bodies of a rabbit and a wolf tied up in exactly the same way he had shown in his videos. Then he heard a noise and quickly hid under a rock. Looking around, he realized that someone had built a massive trap, perfectly replicating his own survival techniques. He backed away in time, knowing he could have been caught. Trembling, Doug ran back to his camp, only to find that someone had made another move on his chessboard. This was so clever that even Doug couldn't counter it. With no other option, he decided to stay where he was for the rest of the night. He set up 3 cameras around the area, hoping to capture whoever was watching him. But when he woke up the next morning, all 3 cameras had been knocked down. That was when the fear increased even more. He was not only being watched, he was being hunted. Whoever or whatever it was hadn't heard him yet, but Doug knew that could change at any moment. It was now clear that he needed to escape because something out there was tracking his every move. Doug began filming the final scenes of his show when suddenly a loud explosion echoed through the air, followed by a powerful shockwave that threw him into the water. He struggled to swim back to shore as he bled from his eyes, nose, and ears due to the force of the impact. Soaked and shaken, he squeezed his clothes and put them back on, then began running, desperate to escape. In a moment of panic, Doug lost his sense of direction and accidentally fell into a deep hole. Just before losing consciousness, he saw a dark figure watching him from above. When he regained consciousness, injured and weak, he tied his wounded hand with his shirt and climbed out of the hole with great effort. Doug finally reached the spot where his team had set up camp. The tents and equipment were still there, but the people were missing. Then he spotted his brother Terry hanging from a tree, tied up just like Doug had hung his prey. Doug rushed to free him and discovered he was still alive. Although he could hardly ask for help, Doug ran to the tent to use the radio, but his brother was already dead. When he stepped back out with a first aid kit, he finally saw the culprit, an alien, non-human, standing before him. It had been following Doug the whole time, imitating his actions and studying him. The remains of Doug's team were nearby, their bodies mutilated and their skins peeled off. The alien made the same sinister sound Doug had heard in the forest. Realizing he was in danger, Doug ran, luring the creature into the same hole he had fallen into earlier. Fortunately, the plan worked. The alien fell into the trap, and Doug buried it under a pile of heavy rocks, hoping it would be enough to kill it. He ran back to help Terry, but it was too late. Terry had died, leaving Doug completely alone. Doug, heartbroken and exhausted, gently covered the bodies of his fallen team. Realizing that he might not survive, he recorded a final message for his family, just in case no one came to rescue him. Needing strength, he watched the video his daughter had made for him again. Her words reignited his determination, and he decided not to give up. After bandaging his wounds, Doug looked around the camp and found a map. He noticed that Duncan's house was 6 kilometers away. Wasting no time, he composed himself and started walking. When night fell, he finally reached Duncan's cabin. It was empty, but the TV was still on. Watching the news, Doug was in for a surprise. The news revealed that what he thought was a single alien accident was not isolated. Millions of similar aliens had landed all over the planet. Major cities were in ruins, and the government was requesting people to evacuate. Doug, already far from the city, was safe for now, but reality hit him hard. His family might not have made it. Even so, he refused to give up. He gathered supplies from the cabin and prepared to leave using Duncan's boat, determined to find and protect his family. But just as he was about to leave, Duncan appeared, pointing a gun at him and demanding that he leave the boat behind. Doug refused. He couldn't waste any more time. Before Duncan could act, the alien reappeared and killed him. It then turned its attention to Doug. But Doug fought fiercely. In a final act of survival, he killed the alien by crushing it into pieces using the boat's motor propellers. As Doug caught his breath, thinking the danger was over, he looked up and froze. The sky was filled with meteors coming in his direction, revealing that more aliens were arriving.